why not spring clean our bodies? So let's think about this for a minute. The first thing we did when we were doing spring cleaning for our house is we cleaned up the grease and dirt. So let's clean up our diet. There's a lot of grease and there's a lot of dirt in our diet if we're like most people. So out with the fats and the sugars, and out with the salts and the additives, all those things, the grease, the dirt, the bad things that are in our diet, and in with fresh fruits and vegetables. We know they're good for us, but that's really going to be part of our spring cleaning project. Raw, fresh fruits and vegetables. And in with juicing. You can take those raw fruits and vegetables, you can make juices out of them. Now, juicing is almost as good as eating the raw fruits and vegetables themselves. There is one problem. You break up some of the fiber, so you lose some of the benefits of the raw fruits and vegetables themselves, but juicing can be great. And I know many people that juice on a regular basis as part of their spring cleaning, part of their cleansing process. And, the second thing, we talked about cleaning out the closet. There's a picture of a really full closet, but if we really talk about, in terms of spring cleaning our bodies, we're going to clean out our liver, because our liver gets kind of gunked up like that closet we were just looking at. That's because we mistreat our livers, things like alcohol, fat in the diet, and obesity. It doesn't matter whether that fat comes from the food we eat or the fat that our body manufactures when we become overweight. It still clogs up our liver. We get fatty liver, and that's the first step in a disease process. The pesticides from our foods, the food additives, where our liver has to detoxify those things. And it's very difficult to do. Our livers were made to detoxify some of the things that we find in nature. But these pesticides and additives are artificial. They're chemically synthesized. Our livers deal with them the best that they can, but they were never designed to handle the pesticides and additives that are in the modern food supply. So the moral of the story is you want to love your liver. So how do we do that? With our liver cleansing foods, and I realize most of you probably can't see that, but there are things like garlic, grapefruit, green tea, bitter melon, arugula, dandelion greens, the chicory, what's that other one here? I have a hard time reading it myself. I think it's mustard greens and avocados, walnuts, turmeric. These are foods that we know help to cleanse the liver. And, if you really added to that list a lot of the green vegetables, the green leafy vegetables, the kales, the spinaches, those sorts of things, all of those help to cleanse the liver. So we need to be eating more of those kinds of foods. And then we have some supplements that really help with that. One is the liver DTX, and the second is alfalfa. So let's look at those two for a minute. Why liver DTX? Why is that so important? Well, the first thing is it protects the liver. It's specifically designed to protect the liver, and that's because it cleanses the liver of toxic compounds. It helps to regenerate the liver cells. It stimulates bile flow. So as the liver detoxifies substances, it puts them along with the bile, and all of that goes through the bile duct into the intestine. So you not only want to cleanse the liver of toxic compounds, you want to get those toxic compounds into the bile. You want to stimulate that bile flow so they don't back up the liver. They end up in the intestine so we can get rid of them. But it's also a very important antioxidant. It's a very important antioxidant. It has a number of important ingredients, but milk thistle is the most important. There's a picture there. That's an antioxidant that specifically helps to reduce free radical damage in the liver. Because you see, when the liver is trying to detoxify all these foreign chemicals, it does the process in which it does so creates a lot of free radicals. And so the milk thistle helps to destroy those free radicals, reduce that free radical damage, and that's a very important part of the reason why the liver DTX helps to protect the liver and to regenerate liver cells. So that's the liver DTX. Now, why alfalfa? Well, you probably know about the alfalfa plant. There's a picture of the leaves and the flower, but the bottom picture there also shows the roots. The roots of the alfalfa plant go very deep, and they bring up a lot of trace minerals. The leaves provide chlorophyll and phytonutrients. So what is alfalfa? It's a natural diuretic, and because of that, it helps to get things out of the bloodstream and into the urine. So all those toxins that are being released from our cells, as they get into the bloodstream, the alfalfa helps to flush those toxins out and get them into the urine. I talked about the chlorophyll from the green leaves, but chlorophyll is a natural cellular cleanser and detoxifier. So it's helped getting those toxins out of the cells, and because alfalfa is also a diuretic, it's flushing those toxins into the urine. Here's a very important thing. It helps to increase alkalinity. That helps to balance the body pH, and that's important for a whole number of cellular functions. Helps to reduce the risk of cancer, helps to reduce inflammation. These are this alfalfa is great if you want something that's going to help to alkalize the body, help to prevent that acidic pH. I think everybody knows that when we talk about spring cleaning, when we start to think about spring, we start to think about all the pollen that's going to be in the air very shortly and all those seasonal allergies. Alfalfa and nutrifuron together really do wonders. North Carolina, we call ourselves the allergy capital of the world. I think we have more mold and antigens and that sort of thing, and pollen and that in the air than any place else in the country. So people can be allergy-free anywhere else. They move to North Carolina, they seem to get allergies. And just the alfalfa and nutrifuron together are a powerful 1-2 punch that helps people get over that. But also it's anti-inflammatory. We have some great anti-inflammatory products now. We've got the OmegaGuard, we've got the Vivix. But those of you that have been around for years and years, remember, there was a time when all we had for inflammation was alfalfa. And people got tremendous results with alfalfa. So it should be part of your anti-inflammatory regimen. So alfalfa does a lot of things. It's cleansing and detoxifying, but it does a lot of other things that are very beneficial as well. Okay, back to the spring cleaning our bodies. Remember when we were spring cleaning the house, after we clean things up and that sort of thing, the next thing to do is to take out the trash. Well, in the parlance of spring cleaning our bodies, that means we want to clean out our intestine because we mistreat our intestines. The junk food that we eat, but also the fat in our diet. And again, when we become obese, that puts a lot of other fat into the bloodstream. That increases inflammation. Neither of those things are good for the intestine. The pesticides and additives, the intestine is the first place that has to deal with those things. But it's also the antibiotics that are given so frequently for even minor infections nowadays that kill the friendly bacteria and cause bad bacteria and yeast to take up residence in our intestine. And then the food sensitivity, such as a sensitivity to gluten. All of these things can leave our intestines in a not so happy place. So what do we do with that? Well, we start by cleansing the intestine. Again, raw vegetables. If we think of foods, they're again some of the best foods for sort of cleansing the intestine. Sort of like, in a sense, because they're roughage. They clean out the debris, and that's really tremendous. And then in terms of supplements, This is where we think of the Herblax and the Optiflora. So let's talk about those two. Why is Herblax important? Well, if we know Herblax, it has a couple of important ingredients. That's a senna there. It also has licorice root. It has several other ingredients as well, but I wanted to show you just a couple of them. But it is a natural cellular cleanser and body detoxifier. So again, it's another. This is why Dr. Shackley developed Herblax to begin with, to cleanse the cells and detoxify the body. It also stimulates bile flow, so it helps to get the toxins out of the liver and into the intestine. And once it's in the intestine, it promotes bowel function. It helps the bowel to function properly, something called peristaltic action, which is sort of a rhythmic constriction and relaxation of the bowel that allows it to very easily take the stuff that comes in at one end and move it smoothly and efficiently to the other end. So and it helps to stimulate that, and it's very important for bowel function and regularity. Mostly, it helps to prevent constipation. In some people, it can also help with diarrhea. But because of the senna, it is a gentle laxative, and that's why Shackley had to label it Herblax. It was meant as an herbal detoxifier, but it's also a laxative. And then there's Optiflora. And the beautiful thing about Optiflora is the triple encapsulation system that ensures that those friendly bacteria are protected from heat, they're protected from water, they're protected from acid, so it can go through the stomach and get to our intestine, where we really want those friendly bacteria to take residence. Because remember, we've got the antibiotics, we've got bad food and yeast sometimes in food that has been, maybe it hasn't kept out of the refrigerator too long. You eat at a restaurant, and sometimes people get food poisoning, which they recognize as food poisoning. Sometimes it's just a little bit of indigestion. And what they don't realize is the only difference between the food poisoning and indigestion is the amount of bad bacteria that the food contained. If it was just a little bit of bad bacteria, we get the indigestion. If it was a whole bunch of bad bacteria, we get the food poisoning. But, over time, if we don't do anything about it, we're going to build up those bad bacteria. And that's going to influence our digestion. It's also going to influence our immune system, because 70% of the immune system is in the intestine. So what does Optiflora do? It provides those friendly bacteria to keep the undesirable bacteria in check. It just outcompetes them. It promotes colon health, because, again, those bad bacteria can, they can cause all sorts of problems. They can cause leaky gut, for example. And when we get rid of those bad bacteria and we put in the good bacteria, that helps promote colon health. We can counteract the side effects of antibiotics. So if you have a reason where you have to go on antibiotics, be sure to take the Optiflora at the same time, so you don't get the diarrhea and some of the other side effects of the antibiotics. It improves digestion, because it's improving colon health, and it strengthens the immune system, because, as I said, 70% of the immune system is in the intestine. But again, really the focus here for the spring cleaning is the intestine, replenishing the friendly bacteria, promoting colon health, improving our digestion. This is what we're talking about here. So that's to clean up our intestine part. And then when we were talking about spring cleaning our house, we talked about sprucing up the place, maybe putting a fresh coat of paint, spackling, just doing general repairs and maintenance. Well, if we think about sprucing up the place, we really want to repair cellular damage. Cellular damage associated with aging, cellular damage associated with fat in our diet, fat in our bloodstream, cellular damage associated with free radical damage caused by the foods we eat, the food additives, the pesticides, the herbicides. All of these things damage our cells, and we need to repair that cellular damage. So that's where Vitalizer comes into place. And to my way of thinking, that's where Vivix also comes into place. Now, I will tell you, if Nidra were on the webinar tonight, she probably wouldn't recommend Vivix because, as we'll see in a minute, one of the things that she really tries to do is to help us reset our taste buds. So she doesn't want you using anything sweet while you're on the cleanse program. And I'm okay with that. As important as Vivix is for repairing cellular damage, it's probably okay to leave it out for the 3 to 7 days you're actually doing the cleansing program. But once you're off the cleansing program again, you're going to want to go back on the Vivix, repair the cellular damage. And then you probably have supplements that you're using already that are really essential for you, essential for your health, for whatever your concerns are. And so you'd certainly want to keep using those. And finally, when we talked about spring clean in our house, we opened the windows, we let in the fresh air. So what does that correspond to when we're spring cleaning our bodies? Well, it means we flush the toxins out of our body. That's with plenty of pure, fresh water, which is why I put a best water picture there. But also, that's where, remember, green tea was something that was good for cleansing the liver. And so if you are going to have some caffeine while you're on the program, the unsweetened green tea is probably the perfect thing to add. So how do you know when it's time to spring clean your body? Do you do it randomly? Well, you could do it every spring. I mean, after all, you're supposed to check the batteries in your smoke alarm every spring when we change the daylight saving time. So should you go on a spring cleanse every time we do daylight saving time? That might not be a bad idea, but there might be other times when it's time to do that spring cleanse. And so how do you know? Well, it might be because you're noticing you're more fatigued and have lower energy than usual. It might be because you're noticing some bloating, that should be bloating, not bloating, and puffiness that you didn't normally feel. Maybe your digestion just isn't up to par. Maybe you've got a little bit of constipation, maybe a little diarrhea, gas, whatever it is. It's just not where it should be. And maybe you're plagued with food cravings. It may be cravings for sweets, it may be cravings for salty or fatty foods. It's just become more of a problem with you. Maybe it's the blood sugar swings that you're experiencing. And for those of you that are really trying to lose weight, it could be because you've hit a weight loss plateau. You are losing weight really well for a while and you just kind of hit a plateau. So if those things happen, it might be time to consider the spring cleanse. I love this picture. So if you're just feeling kind of blah, like that sad face there. Okay, so what can you expect? What are the benefits you're going to expect if you do spring clean your body? Well, you're probably going to notice increased focus, clarity, and energy. You're not going to be so lethargic. Your energy levels are going to improve. It's going to help balance and regulate your hormones, which you'll notice in blood sugar swings in terms of how you feel. It's going to reduce some of those cravings, so you're going to reduce that desire to overeat. It's going to help you overcome those cravings for sugar, for fats, for alcohol, for caffeine. It's going to help to boost metabolism. It's going to help to enhance digestion, to get rid of some of those digestive issues, and because it boosts metabolism, it's going to help you jumpstart your weight loss again. So those are some pretty good reasons to consider your spring cleaning project. And so you turn that sad face into a happy face. So these are a couple slides I borrowed from Nidra just to give you an idea of what a 3 to 7 day spring cleanse for your body might look like. And this comes from her Fresh Start program. But it starts with, you're on a daily basis, you're going to eat unlimited amounts of fresh raw fruits, unlimited amounts of fresh raw vegetables, And if you're going to do this, you want to have fun with it. You're not going to just get celery or just get cabbage or just get broccoli. You really want a cornucopia of different fruits and vegetables so it doesn't get boring. Some of your favorite ones that you maybe don't get on a regular basis. And you're going to drink lots of water, or some of it can be in the form of an herbal green tea. And the idea is you're going to graze all day on those fresh fruits and vegetables. You're going to eat at least every 2 hours, whenever you're hungry. The number of calories in those raw fresh fruits and vegetables is going to be pretty minimal. So you just eat a little bit every now and then. Drink lots of water. And now if you're diabetic or hypoglycemic, you will probably need to add protein to each meal. So this is where you could use a 180 smoothie mix, maybe grilled chicken, but with no coatings on it, just plain grilled chicken. Fish, poached or grilled, no sauces, fancy stuff on it. And eggs, poached or soft-boiled. Suzanne informed me that Nidra says just in the morning for your protein. I think that you're going to have to work that out. You're going to figure out what works best for you. The idea is you don't want a lot of calories. You don't want a lot of protein. You want just enough so that you're not going to have blood sugar problems if you're diabetic or hypoglycemic. Now, Nidra has some definite no's. No fried foods, no cooked foods, no sugar, juice, wine, beer, alcoholic beverages, no artificial sweeteners, no bread, crackers, cookies, muffins, bagels, pasta, no meat, fish, eggs, or cheese, milk, protein shakes, unless you're diabetic or hypoglycemic. No dried food, no snack bars, meal bars, no chips. And if you drink a lot of caffeinated coffee or cola drinks, you try to reduce it, but don't try and go off it cold turkey because then you're going to have headaches, you're going to have problems. Limit your seltzer water to 10 ounces a day. It's kind of interesting. The first slide was pretty specific. You're eating just raw fruits and vegetables and water. But I guess she's found over the years that people always say, well, what about this? What about that? So she found she also had to put a list together of the things you definitely shouldn't be eating. So this is again a slide I borrowed from Nidra. This is what a suggested day of her Fresh Start program might look like. So she used a breakfast juice, juiced up her breakfast. So she blended until chunky, watermelon, some organic berries, apple, orange, fruit, very little bananas. But then so that she started out with sort of a fruit smoothie, if you would, but without protein unless you're hypoglycemic or diabetic. And then during the morning and afternoon, she said that you just have those pre-washed, cut-up fruit and vegetables, and more vegetables than fruit, because again, the fruit has more sugar in it. You're trying to get off of sugar. There's things that don't have a bunch of calories in them, like yellow mustard or salsa. You can dip them in if you need to, but it's just you're snacking on those whenever you need them. She has a recipe for gazpacho soup. I didn't happen to have it here, but it's a gazpacho soup, not your stuff that you buy from Campbell's or any of those companies, because that probably has a lot of salt in it. This is gazpacho soup just made yourself from the fresh raw ingredients. And you go back again to the fruits and vegetables during the afternoon to snack all afternoon. And then have fun with your dinner by making a huge salad and put all sorts of fun things in it that are, vegetables like assorted dark greens, raw vegetables, a little bit of avocado for your fat. You can put a little bit of salad dressing on there, but not much. And then, so that would be a typical day. And obviously there are lots of variations you could do on that, but that would be how it would go. And then for supplements, again, these would be her suggestions in terms of amounts of the supplements we talked about. 5 alfalfa tabs morning and again 5 at night. 2 to 4 herb blacks before bed. And, if you tend towards diarrhea rather than constipation, you might just want to start out with 1 until you see how you tolerate it. 1 liver detox in the morning, 2 with dinner, and 1 Optiflora probiotic pearl. Probably in the morning would be the best time for that. So, that's the suggested supplement regimen. So, you've done your spring cleanse. It might not be spring, but whenever you've done it, you've done your spring cleanse. So what's next? Well, if you need to lose weight, now you're ready to go back on the Shaklee 180 turnaround program. If you just want vibrant health, now you're ready to go on the lean and healthy program. And just sort of putting in perspective to close this up, is that spring cleaning really worth it? What if you experienced, and this again, I borrowed this from Nidra, your cravings were gone, the portion sizes you were eating were reduced, your hunger was gone, you had better focus, you improved digestion, you had a greater feeling of well-being. Would you be happier? Might that smiley face be you? So the question to ask yourself, is your body ready for spring cleaning? And with that, I think we can go to questions.
Thank you, Dr. Chaney. That was a very informational, worthwhile, beneficial presentation. I really thought you did a great job with that. Somebody said something about stevia. I don't know if they are asking if they can have that, and I would say no.
No, and I mean, you're trying to avoid. What you're trying to do is to reset your taste buds. That's part of the whole idea of the spring cleansing your body. So that was the same spirit in which I said, as great as Vivix is, and it's a totally natural sugar. It's sorbitol they have in there, but it's still sweet, and so I can understand setting that aside for that 3 to 7 days. Same thing with stevia. You want to avoid sweeteners of any kind while you're on the program, other than the natural sweetness that comes from fruits. And you should be eating more vegetables than fruits.
Do you recommend garlic as part of the cleansing process?
Obviously it could be. I mean, we know that garlic is important for that. So it's not. We try and keep the regimen simple. There are probably a number of other supplements that we could add if we were really going to try and make it complex. But certainly garlic, you could make a good case for having garlic as part of your cleansing program.
You could throw it in your salad in the evening.
That's right.
And I think part of it, one of the keys that you just said, Steve, is keeping it simple. Doing this kind of a detoxifying diet is not the simplest. It's simple in its design, but it is not, let's say it's not necessarily easy to do. It takes a little bit of willpower and other things. So I think the more basic it is, the better it works for people.
And one of the things, if Nidra were on this call, she would tell you of the hundreds of people she's worked with and how well it's worked for most of the people that she's worked with. So I think, yes, you're right. You do have to make a commitment to it, but it is something that anybody can do.
Yeah. What nutrients can help detoxify the brain's waste materials?
The brain isn't really different than any other organ. So the same foods, the same supplements we talked about are going to help. Anything that helps to cleanse the cells is going to help the brain as well as any other cell in the body.
Any tips for weight loss when someone is using 180 shakes but not losing?
Well, one of the things you might try is, and we actually, I don't know if that recording is still available. It probably is, because last week I did a call with Dr. Jamie about plateaus and how you get out of plateaus. So I shared some ideas, but there was also some great stuff from Jackie McCoy. So that recording, I think, is still available until she does the next call tomorrow night. So you might want to go back, and there's some great ideas there about how you deal with those plateaus when you're not losing weight. But certainly this kind of cleansing program is a way in which you can sort of get your metabolism jump started again and then go back on the program and really follow it as closely as you can. Again, I'll just give you a quick rundown for the checklist I went through on Tuesday night. But number one is that we tend to, if we've been on the program for a while, we tend to get a little bit slack. I think Jackie McCoy had a very nice word for it, relaxed. We're not tracking things. We're not being quite as careful with what we eat as we used to. So again, as I've often shared on those Tuesday night calls, it really is going back and tracking rigorously everything you eat. Portion sizes is another thing. Sometimes those portion sizes start to creep up. I made the point that we live in a fat world where the standard portion size is too much. So you have to make a conscious choice in terms of how much you eat. Another thing that I mentioned that kind of trips people up is that if you have one of these systems that tracks and tells you how many calories you save or how many calories you burn when you exercise, and you figure that into your total, you're going to be totally misled. Most of those are off by a factor of 2.
Wow.
So you can cut the calories they tell you burned at least in half, maybe a third, maybe only 1/3 of what they tell you you've burned, and that's the amount that you can relax your diet. That's a biggie. Another thing is people may not be eating enough protein. So again, what will happen is, you're following the 2 shakes a day or the shake and meal bar, you're following that to the T. You're having your snack bar when appropriate. But then for your foods, when people think about foods and dieting, what do they think about? They think about salads, they think about leafy greens, boiled vegetables, boiled leafy greens or something like that. They don't think about protein. So you end up with not getting the amount of protein and leucine you really need on a daily basis. When Shaklee designed that diet, they designed it for the foods and the protein. Now, the other thing that sometimes happens is people are doing their shakes, and they're allergic to milk, so they don't want to put it into dairy. And then they say, well, I don't want to use almond milk or soy milk or some of these others because they add so much sugar to it. So they end up just putting it in water. Well, if you put 2 scoops of the protein in water, you're not getting the amount of protein and leucine you should be from the shake. If you're going to do it just in water, you have to have 3 scoops of the protein to get to the same place that you should be. So those are just a few of the few check off list.
Great tips. Those are great. This presentation, hopefully we will have it archived at betterhealthin31days.com, and that's all one word, one together. That is a paid subscription site that our webmaster, Chris Spell, monitors, and he does all the work for us in putting these up and making them all available. So you just want to go to betterhealthin31days.com and check in and read about the website and how to participate with it. Another question is, I'm allergic to soy and had to stop using the 180 program. I used to think that wasn't too bad until I learned from Dr. Jamie about inflammation. Might this be alleviated after the cleanse?
If you've got a real allergy to soy, it's probably not going to be alleviated by the cleanse. The inflammation can be alleviated. You didn't say anything about the whey version. If you can do milk protein, then you can use the whey version of the 180.
Yeah. How can you do, or what can you do to cleanse the iron out of your body when you have too much?
That's a more difficult topic, and you're starting to get into medical situations where it really depends on why you have too much. But that's not something you can easily do just with food.
I wouldn't think so. Are there any additional guidelines for those who have thyroid disorders, such as hypothyroidism or hyperthyroidism?
Not really. If you are on a thyroid medication, one of the things you probably already know is you need to take your thyroid medication 30 minutes to an hour, and preferably really an hour, before you eat anything. That's true for your soy protein shake, but it's also true for just about any food. Now, in terms of with raw fruits and vegetables, I don't know whether it's true for the raw fruits and vegetables, but I don't think anybody's really studied that so that you could say that it's okay. I think most doctors will just say, just don't eat anything for 30 to 60 minutes.
Okay. And Mark Chaney is weighing in, telling us that there are some good resources for avoiding weight loss plateaus on Shaklee.tv. Thank you, Mark.
Well, that's right, because I think each week when they do that, they do make a recording, and I think you might be referring to Jackie McCoy's journal. So she puts together a journal of a lot of the great stuff that she shares on those calls. I mean, I'm very impressed with her. She complimented me after that call we did together, and I emailed her back and I said, Jackie, you've got a PhD in weight loss earned by experience.
Yeah. Boy, I guess she has. Talk about the ups and downs that she's went through. She's experienced it all. How many days should we do the cleansing?
The recommendation is 3 to 7. That is, for some people, 3 would, particularly if you tend to be hypoglycemic, 3 may be all you want to do. But for most people, somewhere between 3 and 7 is optimal. They really don't get much additional benefit for going longer. And remember, you're going without protein for these 3 to 7 days. So you will be losing body protein as you're doing all this cleanse. So it's not something you would want to do long term.
Yeah. Why do you limit bananas? I know that one, I think.
Okay, go ahead.
They're high glycemic.
Well, they're high glycemic. Yeah. They're actually higher in fat, but they're also higher in sugar, high glycemic. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, a couple more quick questions here, and then we'll call it a night. What about adding lemon juice to your water that you're drinking? Lemons are detoxifying also, correct?
Absolutely. I didn't. There were several different pictures I could have chosen for the liver detox foods, but some of them also included lemons and limes, that sort of thing. I think this one had grapefruits on it, but lemons are also great. Yeah, put those in your water. You can actually eat them if you like them. If you like to have the lemons.
Well, I think we're at the end of the questions here. That's a wrap. Thank you again so much, Dr. Chaney. It was a very informative and helpful presentation. Have a good week, everyone.